let's crack on. Hello and welcome to another MrBetaByte video, and this one's a little bit different insofar as we're looking at an SL-HF100 from Sony, of course, and this has been sent in for repair from Xavier. Hi Xavier, hope all is well with you. And as you can guess, we've got a problem. Of course we've got a problem. Specifically, you can see the tape inside light is flashing. Which means we've got a lacing loading problem. And if I turn it on, yeah. So you can see it's partially tried to lace, and yeah, basically, more than likely, the gear, the plastic gear at the bottom of this assembly has split. So we'll get that swapped, and we'll see whether we're going to repurpose the original one, or whether we are going to put a new one on, a new replacement. And yeah, as for the rest of it, bit of muck on the upper drum there, but it is also quite worn. I don't quite make that out. There is quite a bit of shininess going on the upper drum. So we'll take that off and get that sorted. Power supply, it's still got the original 47, 4.7, I always get muddled. 16 volt bipolar caps in, so we'll fit the ceramic replacements on the base of the board for that. Probably do those two 350 volt ones as well, because they can give problems. So but yeah, first of all, let's get this apart and or off, and see what's going on. Let's crack on. Okay, so I know I've done this in a bit of a weird order, because usually I power it up during the intro to the video, but of course I've already done that. So yeah, plug. This plug's fine. It's seen life a little bit. Had a 5 amp fuse, put a 3 amp fuse in, just for the sake of completeness. Really just matching the right fuse for the job. So let's get to that little gear that I think is broken, and just tighten that up a little bit so it's not floating about. Yeah, you can see that spinning around, and that's totally free. So that is one truly split, and should be able to pull this, just pull it off. So yeah, I didn't quite see that. Can we get some focus? So actually almost completely split in two. So certainly won't be reusing that. There's a bit of grease going on there actually, which is actually a little bit annoying for putting glue on. But it's grease. It's like oil. Yeah, there's quite a bit about actually, just as spots. It's almost like somebody's lubricated it to fix it. I don't know. It just seems a bit odd that there's grease or oil of some description all around there. The planet gears seem very, very good though, so I do wonder, but can I actually get that clean without having to take this apart? This can come off. That's fine. Let's give that a bit of a clean. I think we might get away with it, to be honest. So yeah, so you can see, I mean, I've shown this before, you can see the threaded parts, or the say the threaded part, the sort of textured part. You want to get the new gear, because the new gear won't be the full length of this, and indeed, I mean, the old gear actually has a flange on the bottom. I've shown this before in previous videos, and it's to stop this from falling off. Now the new one doesn't have that. You can put something there just to keep it in place, but I find just be careful reassembling it, and it'll be fine. So yeah, but I tend to get it sort of most of the way up there, just so it gets a fairly good, I mean, to be fair, I don't think you have to be too critical with this, because if you look at how this goes, yeah, you wouldn't want it too low, but you'd want it, yeah, you want it up to the textured part of that shaft. So there is a little bit of movement there. Sort of would have been there with the original one as well, but yeah, just get that most of the way up. So I'll get that gear, get some super glue, and we'll glue it on. Okay, so got the gear ready to go. It's a 10-tooth gear with a 2.2mm center hole. They're used by RC cars, so they're quite commonly available for not very much. You can get a whole bag for a few pounds. So using, hopefully going to use, if it hasn't dried up, gone all horrible, some Loctite super glue, but gel. I always use the gel. Just put a little bit in the top, just because it does a better job at sticking to that shaft. So you don't need too much. In fact, I might put too much on it even now, but yeah, let's get that installed. So I don't know how much of this you're going to see, but there's the gear, and just push that on. I'm turning it as I go, and just pushing it up to the end of the knurled bit. Got a bit on my fingers, always get some on my fingers, and that has actually glued. Actually felt it go as I was twisting it, but yeah, that's actually done. So there's a little bit of glue on the bottom there, which I suppose I can wipe off, but it won't do any harm because nothing's going to go against it. So that's back on, and then so now we haven't got that bottom portion to the gear. This bit is gonna want to slip off, so we just have to be a little bit mindful of that as we put it back in. But to be honest, once you've got it past so far, it's not going to go anywhere particularly. So as long as it locates, and just give that a little rock. I think that's in. Yeah, that's good by the looks. So get these screws put back in. I should. Don't know why I'm not getting any drive. I can see the gear. Oh, hang on. Yeah, the glue hasn't set yet. So I'm going to leave that just to finish off. I'm still a bit worried that I've got grease in there. Or if there is any sort of oil there. So I don't know. We'll just have to see how we get on. So while we just wait for that glue to finish drying, and incidentally it has dried enough for me to sort of get it back to the fully unlaced position, so that's good. But yeah, it's just a bit quick really. So put out this top connector. I'd already freed it because they can be very, very stubborn. What they do have is little line there in the plastic, and you can actually get a flat blade screwdriver in there to help sort of wiggle it free. It is incredibly difficult sometimes. Sometimes just gently pressing on the top as well, so it unlatches, because you've got the locking latches on the top. Just giving it a little rock just to free those and get them moving can also help, but I had one and it was just impossible. So 2 screws there to take out. And it's probably not the right screwdriver, to be fair, because there's a little bit of play, but is that one better? There we go. And you won't be able to see this, but I'm just taking off the tape guide. Springs. So, like so. And we have to take off the fan. And try not to lose the screws, because they are a little bit unique. Okay, and then Allen key. I should just be able to lift this straight off. There we go. So you can see there, that's pretty worn. And that little bit of muck there on the exits side. Let's give that a clean and a resurface, and we can put that back together. So yeah, let's crack on. I've shown how to do this before, so I'm doing it the same method with the Scotch-Brite, bit of Brasso after that, and then polish up, or we'll clean up with isopropyl and then polish up, and yeah, it should come out really nice. So yeah, anyway, I'll crack on. Okay, so we are all good to go with the resurfacing, so nice job. I've also cleaned the lower drum very, very carefully. So let's drop this back on, not literally, and it does go just quite cleanly, squarely, straight back down. Then put in the all-important back. Allen key, Allen bolt, screw. Then the longer screws, I say the longer screws, there's short ones that came off from the tape guides, the sprung tape guides for the upper drum. So you don't want to put the long ones in there because they'll chop the heads off. There we go. Lovely. So put the guides back on. and short screws, and the fan. Magic. Oh gosh. So spring on first, which you probably can't see very well. It's behind that bit of plastic. And have I got that twisted? So that way round. Oh, I don't know if I can. Oh, I think I can. Just thinking I can't get this back on. But I can, because I can do it that way. Do it. So take it off and put it back on. And then put that in the right position. And basically, again, you can't really see it very well. But there's a peg that comes out that attaches to the end of the solenoid to the linkage here, and it goes behind the peg, but in front of there's a washer there as well on this one. They don't all have that. Then silver screw without the washer at the front. And then the brass-like washer, screw with the washer on at the back. And then let's just get this connector put back in. Pop the belt back on, which is a little bit tricky to do, and snap this off. It's fairly slack anyway, to be fair. Just give it a bit of tension. Doesn't need to be tensioned that much. Don't over tighten the screw because it splits plastic. Very, very easy to do. And that should be a fully functioning, quite happy deck now. I'm not going to do much more with it. Just noticed I have actually cleaned the tape path, but I missed to do the ace head. I can see a bit of muck on there, so I'll get and do that. But yeah, I think the next thing is to do the power supply. So yeah, I've cleaned up all of this bit and missed all of this, to be honest. I just did the drum and the capstan, because the capstan was absolutely filthy, and it looks like there's still muck on it, but it's not. It's a reflection because it's that shiny. I'm worried about the pinch roller. This has no run-on at all. There's just no real run-on, but this is a replacement from, you know, it's an aftermarket replacement, so it's not a Sony one. And they don't tend to have that great a run-on. I just noticed this on some of the guides. There is quite a bit of muck that isn't tape residue, and I don't know quite what that's all about. The guy that ends up here on the full lace, or here, that had all sorts of, like, it's like white residue on it, and I've got it off. I just wonder if it's bits of adhesive from the dust baffles on the inside of the cassettes. But I don't know, it's cleaned up anyway. So yeah, we're looking good. We have lacing, but I'd like to leave that glue sit a bit more if I can. just so it's good and solid. So onto the power supply. So those are the two caps that need to go. I'll probably do these two as well, and then we should hopefully be able to give it a test. So I'm not going to show doing this because it's not long ago that I actually did one of these, so I will try and reference to that video if you want to see how to do the power supply and how I did the caps. But yeah, I'll get these done, get these changed, give it a dust off when I'm about it, and then we'll give it a test. Let's crack on. So power supply's out. I'm giving it a bit of a clean and just cleaning as I'm going along. Power switch looks a lot better, but one slight concern is this subboard here. So these two transistors here have been resoldered. They're for the capstan and the head motor drives, sort of final stage. But the rest of this is headphone. And it's had the chip replaced and a few other bits and pieces and leads soldered on there. So, I mean, I'm hoping the headphone socket's actually really good and all of that works well, because somebody's obviously wanted that to work. Or have they got confused? So I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe this had some sort of servo issue and that's been fixed. It's just odd that these have been resoldered. And then this has all been replaced as well. It's almost like a servo issue and they've fixed the headphone jack. Now I have, or headphone output. Now I have known there's a capacitor under here, I can't remember the value. But it's a 2,200 or something like that. Capacitor, fairly large one physically. And I have known two of those actually go sort of fizzy and pop, literally go fizz. So I don't know, maybe that's caused damage in this case, I don't know. But yeah, just, you know, when you're working on a machine, just make a mental note of things like this, because that could be quite helpful when we've done everything else and it doesn't work. So just being aware of that's quite useful. I do actually have a complete one of these boards. So yeah, there's no adjustments or anything to do with that either. So yeah, maybe I might just swap it out just for the sake of tidying it up. Or we'll see how it performs. But yeah, let's get these capacitors changed and take it from there. Capacitors changed. I've used TDK ceramic capacitors, 4.7 microfarad, 25 volts, so they're just a little bit bigger, so they fit quite nicely on the back of the PCB, and then done the 4.7 350 volt caps as well. So yeah, get this back together and see what happens. Okay, so we are powered up. Really cannot see the clock. It is there, but it's just really dull. So we will check that out in the fullness of time, hopefully, anyway. But anyway, let's try it now. Right, okay. So we're not getting any lacing. It's a bit noisy. Yeah, I think what's... Oh, hang on. Yeah, I've got legs, little lugs on this loose. But usually what causes that is if this gear is riding up a little bit too much. So it should be okay, because I've put the other gear pretty much to the top of where the black gear would have been. But this is just riding a little bit higher, I think. It's just catching the bottom of the cover for the planetary gears. But why it's not lacing... we will have to investigate. Let's just hand lace it. There we go. So switches off at the back there. Yeah, okay. I don't know whether that... It's got to be open, I think, for it to realise the tape's in. I just wonder if maybe there is something either not plugged in or something's not right. Anyway. Yeah, so that's playing fine. But so just capturing, it's black and white, of course it is. So the other thing I'm noticing is, well, it seems to be quietening down. The power supply's got a whistle about it, and I do wonder if possibly we've got other caps on the way out in there. Like I say, this I think this has done a lot of hours, and it's been on a lot as well, so not necessarily being used but in standby, hence why the clock's pretty much gone. Yeah, we've got another one with black and white image. So yeah, so we've obviously got a problem with the deck, insofar as it's not lacing. Let's just eject it. That sounds bad, doesn't it? So it's unlacing fine. So yeah, the tape down one's actually there. Yeah, it just thinks it's laced when it isn't. Let's just check that switch is actually actuating enough. It's not. So I just had to adjust that pull a little bit, right to the end, as far as it will go. So that should now be okay. I couldn't hear it click, so noisy. There we go. Yeah, so black and white. Okay, well, let's eject it. I'll swap this panel over. Let's see what we can do. Let's crack on. So I've dug out an HF100 that I have. This is mine, pending sort of being finished off, ready for sale. And this has perfect colour. It's actually a really good image, to be honest. It's just something random I recorded off YouTube. So yeah, my thinking is, and this video clip's going to probably be in two videos, two separate videos, so apologies for the duplication, but I've got two machines now with colour issues. That one, which is the board, one where I recapped the YC board, and I've been going around in circles with that. I don't seem to really be able to button down exactly what is causing the colour issues, especially as it records in colour fine. But I'm sort of suspecting it might be on the system control, the SS board. And then we've got Xavier's, which this is a fairly well used machine, I have to say, and that display is showing that it's been on for many hours. But I'm going to swap the board, just sort of fast track really the diagnostics on that one, just to see whether it is actually on the YC board on that. Again, I should get something. I'll probably get a fairly good colour image, but ultimately it's something I tend not to really do. But the board is really easy to swap over. It's a quick and easy job, and it'll eliminate everything else. It will give me a good insight into what's happening. So yeah, let's crack on. Okay, so let's plug it in, swap the board over, and see what happens. We get full colour. So we know on this machine, on Xavier's machine, it is on the YC28. Keep calling it, yeah, YC28. I remembered something. Yeah, so that's great. That's actually really, really good to know that all I've got to do is solve the YC28 board problem. And more than likely there's going to be capacitors again, but yeah, that's really encouraging. So I say all I've got to do, I've got to sort out the clock, and also why the power supply is quite so whiny. Like I say, it quietens down after about 10 minutes of use, so sounds a bit like caps, doesn't it? So yeah, anyway, let's crack on. Well, I've gone to town a bit and actually changed all these capacitors, like all of them, on the, well, basically in the can. Might do those three as well, just the big ones, maybe. Although, having said that, I'll probably leave them, to be fair. Things have just got a bit hot and bothered in here, and I think the power supply is relatively high hours. None of the capacitors particularly looked bad, but none of them looked great either. So yeah, I just blanket changed them, and we'll see if that makes a difference. I'm sort of quite intrigued, really. Again, it's not something I really like doing terribly much, blanket change, but on a power supply I think it's worth it. Good power supply, then, you know, everything else you can sort of work on from there. But yeah, so I'll get the module for the clock. There's a clock negative rails, and the AC as well, so it's got a little transformer on it, and there, which so far doesn't seem to give any problems, like on the C9 where the copper rots off the leg because of the flux, I think it is, or the solder used. But so these seem to be okay so far, but and obviously they're not in a sealed metal box like the early ones of the C9 were, so they seem to be fairly reliable, but time will tell. I've done 40 years, so yeah. Yeah, so let's crack on. So I was actually tempted to change the actual main reservoir capacitor. So this is the first capacitor after the rectification of the mains, and I've never known one of these play up, never. I'd be interested to see in the comments if anybody else has ever had problems with these, but on these Sonys I've never ever had an issue, but I'm sort of like intrigued to see if I still get the whistle, and potentially this could cause that. Maybe. I'm basing that on what I've found with some computer power supplies, where these will start getting leaky and they'll start whistling. So I don't know, because obviously they're introducing more ripple to the whole power supply. So yeah, that seems to be a side effect. I don't know, maybe, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. So just checked all the capacitors that I've taken out from inside the can then, and they're all reading low, and they all have a higher than I would expect ESR. Not terrible, probably still in spec. Well, they are pretty much still in spec, but yeah, they're just tired, really. I think it's probably the best way to put it. Obviously they've all had heat applied as well, which affects things, but yeah, some Elners there, which I know can have pretty mixed quality, but yeah, so I think probably it was definitely worth doing, but yeah, quite interesting. So I've sort of put it back together. most of the screws aren't in, but I've connected it up and got it in situ. I've put the 2 screws in the corners of the board, just onto the chassis, but the chassis itself that the power supply sits on isn't actually screwed to the machine yet. But yeah, just checked I've got the orientation of all the electrolytics I've put in the right way, which all looks good. Yeah, I suppose we ought to pair it on and see what happens. Fingers crossed. So it's a bit noisy in here. I've got a heater on. So here we go. And we have no sizzling. But we also, well, oh yeah, we do. That clock is so dull. I wondered if the clock might improve with the caps being replaced, but it's really, really dull. I mean, it's always the VFDs. It's just, they're just really very unreliable on these decks, and this machine has been on for a long time. Probably just sat there just showing the clock for years until you couldn't see it anymore. So yeah, I'm going to put all the screws back in and put the lid back on, and we'll crack on. Let's crack on. I've just spotted something. These 2 caps have leaked. I've had this once before, and I seem to remember it affects the VU meters, which I seem to remember aren't working on this properly either. So that may well be part of the reason why. Could be wrong. I'll have to check actually. It's a very long time since I've had to change those, but you can see both of them have green rotten legs. I do wonder if I've got capacitor issues with the colour side of things as well, but I'm not going to recap that one. Famous last words. Just going to plug this in and check a few things. Yeah, it's silent. It's lovely. Still have to sort out that that lacing motor, but that's fine for now. Right, okay. So what I've done, I just had this moment where I suddenly thought, oh, I've actually put a faulty chip in. One of them was bad. I actually think it might be this one. Possibly. But yeah, the other thing I've done is I've changed the one delay line. Oh, might be the other one. Yeah, so you might remember one of these was in here and it didn't fit, so it was sort of put in a strange angle. And what Sony did is, because the other one sort of came in here, they actually put this capacitor, this green capacitor, this capacitor and this inductor on the back of the board using these yellow insulators to sort of lie them over. And we all know these are bad. These become quite conductive. So I've taken that one off the scrap board and put the components where they should be. So that's one less thing to sort of worry about. Bit weird how they did that, really, but never mind. It's probably something to do with supply and demand. In as far as they couldn't get these slimmer ones, but yeah, there we go. So I'm going to just see if this chip is actually working as it should. Like I say, I had a feeling this chip was bad, but I could be totally wrong. But we shall see. Yeah, let's crack on. Quite a few more checks, and I'm sort of back to that, which is actually good. I just had to do a realignment and basically get colour back. Now I do actually have colour, even though it's black and white. It's a black and white noisy picture. The acknowledgement, the ACK line is at the right voltage, so there's colour there. I can get splashes of colour. When I align this and move especially, well, carrier balance, AFC and AFC offsets, I get flashes of colour as I set those up. So it's definitely trying. I've got lovely colour on pin 38 here, which is fine, and I seem to have good colour going into the final stage. I'm debating that at the moment. I need to do more checks. I'm wondering if I've got a problem here, possibly. But the other thing I've got to consider is that recording is bad. So that would suggest that there's something a bit more sort of general wrong around here. Because this is... Oh, where are we? So you've got your YC separator here. So it could even be I do have a faulty chip, but I just really debate it. I mean, so far, I haven't actually found a faulty chip, except for possibly that one. But even so, I think that one is just a tolerance issue. I think if I'd set up with that chip that was giving the odd results, it would have been, I would have been all right. And it's like this one, you know, I mean, I've got a different chip in here. I've had to set it up, and you know, I'm back to square one effectively. So yeah, really very interesting. So possibly I have a bad chip, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be something around it that's causing the problems. And I would love to find a cap with green legs. But so far, I mean, chroma goes through these two caps, or not through it, but via them. Through that one, I think it is, and this one is to ground, I think, off the top of my head. And I've got colour there. You know, I can see it. I can see colour getting to here. So yeah, I wonder if maybe it is that chip, which is sort of maybe makes sense. I mean, possibly I need to just do another test recording just to make sure that record is now not working, or is now working. I don't even know what I'm trying to say there. I've still got black and white on a recording. If I have, then I'm starting to think it may well be this chip that's actually faulty, and it's something to do with the color processing on that chip. But so I debate it is that. But anyway, I'll do some more checks, and we'll take it from there. So I'd like to say this is working, but it isn't. So if I just press play, we do still have a noisy black and white image. So since the last segment, I've changed a whole load of capacitors. I actually found there's two 4.7 microfarad 25 volt ones that looked decidedly, I think that's one of them, looked decidedly unhealthy underneath, and ended up changing majority of the capacitors, well, pretty much all of them, in sort of the back end, if you like, so the chroma and the luminance, so YC, all of, well, those I did earlier, but I've just done them all. Like I said, the 4.7s, the light blue ones, they were particularly suspect. There was also 1 microfarad 50 volt one, unusual value actually, Elna, When I took that out, that smelt fishy, which is a good sign that it's possibly been leaking. And also there's a 3.3 microfarad somewhere down here that also smelt a bit suspect. But yeah, everything else, well, I changed that one, that 10 volt 100 microfarad one. I think it's 100 microfarads, can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, 100 microfarads, which had a slightly bulging top to it for what it's worth, but the 10 volt ones do tend to be troublesome. So I was happy to change a few actually that are in circuits. So basically everything from here back has been recapped, and it's not made any difference at all. Now what's driving me a bit mad is there is colour there. The ACK is basically, voltage is high on ACK, so it's happily saying, yeah, you got colour. I'm just not seeing it, and you can actually see, I was actually going to do an adjustment then just to sort of bring it out on the AFC back in. It flashes colour, but you can see on the image occasionally you get like a flash of colour, not the right colour, but flash of colour. So yeah, I am a bit stumped at the minute. I'm still convinced it's a capacitor, not least because, you know, those power supply ones, they were all borderline, and of course we've pretty much got rid of the whistle now, and we've got the two on the back of behind the front timer panel. They're leaky, which is not very encouraging when it comes to the general health of capacitors in this machine. Yeah, but we know the signal that's coming from the board there, number I totally forget, is fine because we swapped it with the other panel. Yeah. Now the problem I have is I've run out of time. I'm not going to be doing any betas, either this or any Betamax machines at all, for the next few days at least. I've got to catch up on other work, so I'm going to have to put this to one side. I've just run out of time. So this will be part one, and part two will be along shortly, no doubt. And but in the meantime, any thoughts? I'd sort of be interested to sort of hear any comments or experiences, if you've worked on these machines extensively, especially. You may well know a weak point that can cause this problem then. But like I say, I can see chroma going right the way through and going right to the final stage before video output. You know, there's chroma there. It just is awful. It's just a noisy signal, and I just can't quite see. It seems noisy everywhere I go, but then my scope's not the best. Everything looks noisy on it, because even that clean input looks noisy, you know, when it's just inputting from video in. So that isn't helping my cause. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. It's a shame we didn't quite get it finished. We've done really well with the power supply, and a few other bits and pieces that we've checked, but we have got the clock to come as well. I'm really looking forward to finding the fix for that and getting it nice and bright again. It does involve taking this, because these are just no good. They just go dull. But we'll see how we get on with that. Obviously there's caps behind as well, need to come out. So yeah, with that, thank you very much for watching, and a like and subscribe would be fantastic, and subscribing to the channel as well would be absolutely fantastic. You know, if you watch any of these videos, or you're just waiting for your machine to come up, because we've got loads more to come, both beta and VHS. I'm noticing YouTube, if you're not subscribed, is not recommending or even showing current content. So subscribe, it's really good. It really helps me out as well. So yeah, with that, thank you very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in another video. Bye for now.